Ja, cool. Dann herzlich willkommen allerseits zu uns im Stuhlkreis heute Abend. Wie ihr hoffentlich schon gelesen habt, wird heute der Alex uns etwas darüber erzählen, wie er Koch geworden ist. Und also ihm wäre es lieber auf Englisch zu sprechen, deshalb mal eine kurze Frage in die Runde. Ist es in Ordnung, wenn wir das Ganze auf Englisch machen? Oder gibt es jemanden, der sagt, sorry, ich verstehe gar kein Englisch? Also Englisch.
English is okay.
English is okay? Okay, cool. Well, I don't think I need to say much since Tioniki, she already wrote up a nice summary about Alex, how he started like 10 years ago as a kitchen aide, you know, helping out in the kitchen. And now he's an executive chef. So yes, let's welcome Alex and see how he got there. And yes, let's enjoy this evening tonight with him. So yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
After Alex.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much for the introduction. I think most of those I can see tonight here, I know them personally, so I'm very happy to see you all. It's a great honor and moment for me that I can share some things about my experience. I was talking the other day with my mother-in-law about, you know, the fact that we all lose each other for a while because we really fall into our responsibilities and, you know, a marriage, a blessing, a family life, a career. All these things are, you know, not very easy to manage all together, but somehow you have to do it. And I was just saying with my mother-in-law that because we put so much into our careers, when you reach a point, especially if you are able in a young age to reach that point of being able to share something valuable, we should do it more often. So I'm very, very happy to do that tonight. So I'll start with my name. My name is Alexandros Porfyris, for those who don't know me. I'm half Greek and half Austrian. So my mother comes from a small village in Austria. It's called Steinerkirchen. It's close to Linz. And yeah, that's how I know German. I knew it from my mom. She managed to teach us and, you know, speak to us often German. So I'm very happy that I can communicate with Germans. And that's the main reason that I moved. I went a few times in German workshops because I could feel very comfortable there. Then I'd like to say that the whole journey for me in the culinary world started at a very young age of 16. When I left home and I went to Corfu, where my father comes from, we would always spend our summer and any holiday there. So it's an island on the Ionian Sea. It's between Italy and Greece. And that's where I first got to work at that age, on a summertime when I didn't have to go to school. And I started as a waiter. But it didn't take me very long to realize that I wanted something more. So I asked the manager to join the kitchen because I felt that it was more cool to be in there. And then as soon as I joined, on the very first day, on the salad section, that's where you usually start, or washing up. I was lucky not to do that. So I started from the salad section, and I couldn't believe how the head chef in there could remember all the orders that were coming in suddenly, like one after the other, 50 tickets coming in, because they would all come together, the guests, for lunch and then for dinner as well. So we would get so many tickets that he would lose half of them, but he would still remember what's in there, or what's on the order. So I found it very fascinating and yeah, quite impressive. So when I had to remember all these orders, it didn't work that well at first. It was a mess, but even though it was very stressful and very difficult to cope with, the chef would always help me, take me out of the difficult situations. Even though he had so much to do himself, he would always help me. And I will never forget that feeling of adrenaline that I got. And this is when you realize if you like this job or not, if you like the adrenaline, because you reach some levels of stress that it's either you like it or you don't like it. And I felt like I liked it. So the more you grow into that job and that business, it becomes an addiction. And that's the problem. But you have to be able and you have to be careful to use that addiction to a power, and a good power, power that you can become eventually a good leader. And as a good leader, to really maintain good standards in the kitchen. Can Theoniki hear me? Hello? Theo?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, can we start with the slides so I can have a look at what I said already. So yeah, the reason I decided to be a cook was basically how it started. It was like that. It wasn't my first choice. I wanted to become an architect. Then after that, a journalist. And later on, a gardener. And at last, I was talking one day with my father, saying that I would like to become a chef. And he didn't respond at all. So I was like, oh, maybe he doesn't like the idea. But then after a long gap of, a break of him not saying anything, he was like, oh yeah, why not? It's a good job and it can eventually bring you back home. So that was always my target, that I can somehow have a job that I can be in Corfu eventually. So I started young, but I knew that a career venture abroad would be vital to be able to put myself higher and to be able to put a good status on my CV at a young age. So that's why I went abroad eventually and, experienced working with even Michelin chefs. And I really believe that it's very important, because when I go back to Greece, it would be much easier to get some better jobs. So that was the root of the decision, the fact that I could be back home eventually, and that I would never get hungry. I think it's important as well. And if you are thinking to become a chef, or if you are interested, I think the first step is definitely to study at the college. It's not a requirement in our industry, in the kitchens. Anywhere I worked, all over the world, you will have someone in the kitchen that is not working legally. So it's either a kitchen porter or some very low positions. It's the nature of the industry. So I wouldn't say it's a requirement to go to a college to start being a chef. Many chefs started from being kitchen porters, washing up. Chefs see something in them. Obviously, they are cheap hands, so they usually try to use them if they see that they can do something. And many head chefs today started from being kitchen porters. But even if that was your way of doing it, eventually for legal requirements, you would need to go to a college. And then the better the college is, the better chances you will have to find a better job a better placement, because the better the college is, the more connections they have to get you in, a prestigious establishment. So, yes, lots of practice is what will make you grow, and always push yourself to become better and better. Why? I guess that's everywhere, not just in the chef's industry. I'm sure everywhere you need to do the same thing. So next slide, Theo. Let's talk about how a kitchen is organized. So it's very simple, actually. Very simple if you put it in words. So there is a hierarchy structure, which is basically like a pyramid, as we call it, and it's pretty much like military structure. So you have someone at the top that is the highest responsible person, and then you have people under him and goes on like a pyramid. So it's very important to have discipline, and that's what really is important if you are a chef. And usually the lower you are, the more physical work you have, and the more you grow on the pyramid, the less physical work you have, but more responsibility how to make these chefs under you work properly, be organized, and really, basically, you have to be in many different brains and think for them, because those are at the lowest positions. They don't have the experience to organize their mindset. They don't have the experience to, know their next steps from the very beginning. It comes later. And what's very important is the one that is at the top knows how to listen and is a good leader, and really cares about the problems that chefs have, because you can't do anything if you don't keep them happy. And if you keep them happy, they will do so much for you, because that's all they need. They are there to do a job. You have to make sure that you really explain to them what needs to be done, and have a nice way, but on the same time strict, because at the end of the day, the job has to be done, and you are the one in charge. And if things don't go wrong, then you have to see where the problem is, and target that problem, and really try to shape that person that has difficulties. And unfortunately, many times it's the case that you can't change that person, or he doesn't fit the team, and sometimes you have to sacrifice chefs, because you always think of the unity and the health of the whole, not of one person. So what's very important, it doesn't matter how good or how skilled you are as a chef. The most important thing is being able to work with others, because at the end of the day, every single position is very, very important. Even the kitchen porter, if you ask me, I think it's one of the most important positions, because if your plates are not cleaned on time, then you don't have plates to share, or your plates are dirty, and then the customer will see that. So it's a very, very important position for cleanliness, and cleanliness is very important in the kitchen, because at the end of the day, you are feeding people. What you put on the plate, they put in their stomach. And being clean and organized is very important. So the kitchen porter has to be taken care of, because it's a hard job as well. It's not very easy, it's very physical, and they work the most hours, and they get paid the least, which is not great, but I guess it's the way it is, because apparently, they don't have to think much, and anyone could do it. But if you ask me, I don't see it this way. I really respect the lowest positions. Next slide, please. And yeah, as we said, to be a good chef, you have to really love what you do. You have to really be passionate about it. And thing is that in this job, if you don't feel passionate about it, you will soon find yourself out of the industry, because it's not a very easy environment. It's not very well paid at the beginning, so it takes a while to get these good salaries, let's say. And even when you reach these good salaries, I would say they are the greatest. But it's okay. It's enough to have, like, I guess, necessary stuff. Not like a Porsche or a Ferrari. I guess more simple cars, like a Volkswagen. Yeah, so you have to be very passionate and have a drive, and also care a lot about the result and what you put on a plate, because you have to care about those people that eat it. Why? Because it does make a big difference if they are very happy, and they will in the world we are living, they will write. So if they are unhappy, they will leave a bad comment. If they are very happy, they will leave a good comment. Scientifically, to leave a good comment, it's I think 1 to 7 compared to leaving a bad comment. So it's very easy for people to write something bad, and it's much harder for people to write something good. The intention is always there to write something good, but as soon as they leave the restaurant, it doesn't happen. That's why many restaurants nowadays have Wi-Fi or give you access to Wi-Fi at the restaurant, and they ask you to write a review to get the Wi-Fi password. So, there are ways to get their comments. I wouldn't say that's bribing, but there are ways. And then, when you are a chef, you definitely have to be prepared to get negative feedback, because it will always come. Not everyone likes your food, no matter how much you like it. And you have to be prepared of criticism, 100%. And that's very important for a chef if he wants to grow. So when you get criticism, you can grow. If you don't, then you stop there. And that's the limit that you put yourself, because you think that you are perfect. And that's never the case. You always have to remember in this job that there's someone else out there that is better than you. And if you think this way, then you can always continue growing. Next slide, please. Yeah, so in the kitchen, as I said, there is a clear structure, and the boss is the boss. The head chef is the head chef. The sous chef is the sous chef. Then under the sous chef, you have CDPs. We call them chef de parties. I think in Germany, you would call them A cook, B cook, and C cook. Same in Greece. But here in UK, they call them chef de parties, which is an A cook. Then demi chef de partie is a B cook. And then commis are the C cooks. And then after that, you have internship, someone that is, with the college doing 3 months and, usually just getting the basics, which can be from washing salads and picking things and, doing the boring stuff. But on the same time, if you are in tuned and very focused, you can learn a lot by observation. So that's how it starts. You get in a kitchen, and your role at the very beginning is to listen, follow instructions, perform, do them as quickly as possible, finish your tasks, do them right, and then your secret job to do that no one tells you is observation. So, for example, you will do an internship somewhere for a month. You will always be asked to do things, but then after a month, the chef will ask you to plate a dish that if you haven't paid attention, you will be like, what? I've never done it before. But if you had paid attention, then you will be able to plate it. And yeah, in the kitchen with the structure, very important is to be very clear when you read the tickets, and that your chefs are very focused, and that your voice is loud, because it's a loud environment. So you have to make sure that they hear you. And I'm sure you all have seen these chefs screaming after the chef says the check, like, yes, chef, very loud. And it is very important. I'm quite adamant about it myself, because you, as the head chef, when all this ticket comes, you read them loud. You have to make sure that they listened, because if someone didn't listen, then your whole service will be slower. And every single table, if your first order or one of your first orders are slow because someone didn't listen and there is a mistake, then your whole service will be delayed. And then you put every next table, you put 5 minutes on top. So imagine the last table will eat from the time they order, maybe even an hour later if mistakes happen. The allowed time to send dishes out is usually 15 minutes, their starters after an order comes in, and 15 minutes for their mains after their mains away comes in, and then 15 minutes, usually 10 minutes for a dessert. So every time the order comes in full, so you have a starter usually, a main and a dessert, and then you send the starter as soon as it's ready, which takes usually 10-15 minutes. And then the waiter from outside will have to send you in the kitchen a ticket that will say mains away. And then you will know that when it's mains away, you have maximum 15 minutes to send them out. And what makes you a different chef, and when other chefs will see your qualities, it's precision. Precision makes the difference 100%, and details make the difference as well. So a clean job, a tidy job will, at the end of the day, impress anyone. The guests, your chefs, your owner, someone that you go for an interview, anything. Like precision does make a difference. So next I will show you some dishes that we were doing at one of the places that I worked in London, in Bromley. This is a vegetarian dish, so it's basically a vegetarian mushroom fritter with a mayonnaise that has truffle oil and smashed cucumber. So you basically take the cucumber and you put it in a colander, you add some salt. What that does is that it will take the water out, so it will become a bit more dry, but not too dry, of course. And you will get the moisture out, the water, and then you can season it further. So what we used to do there is that we would add some chili flakes and we will give some spice, and that's pretty much it. Like the mushroom fritter is very nice. It was with barley and lots of different mushrooms. And yeah, that was a bestseller of the starters that we had, and it did very well. The next dish is a dish with fish. You have a grilled salmon here with a Squid Ink Risotto and a sweet garlic cream. So the risotto is very important to cook it al dente, so to have a bite, as we say, like similar to a pasta. If you cook it properly, it has to have a slight bite, not too much, but if it's overcooked, then it's like a mash, which is not very pleasant. But it depends on preferences. Like if someone likes it like that, I don't mind. But this is the general rule or way of cooking, let's say. And then that's a very nice combination because you have some sweetness coming from a garlic cream, which is very easy to make, I would say. You take garlic and you cook it in oil for quite a long time, and then it takes that sharpness away, and the garlic becomes very mild. And then you blend that with some cream in, like a small blender. You take that garlic and you blend it with cream, and the double cream will become thick like a whipped cream. And then you add some sugar in there as well, which makes it quite interesting. And it's a great combination. That was as well one of the best sellers that we had. And then we'll go to a meat dish, which is pork neck with a potato foam, radicchio, and marinated asparagus. So the marinated asparagus here are marinated in oil, lemon juice, lime juice, lemon zest, lime zest, some pink pepper, and salt. That's it. So we just put them raw in that mixture, and it cooks. Of course, they will stay crunchy, but it cooks because it's basically a chemical reaction that you put some acid with that vegetable, and then it naturally cooks. If you take cooking techniques back in time, like in ancient times, you would find that everything was made with salt or acidity, like vinegar, lemon, and these were the oil. Oil was a very important way to preserve things, and then spices as well. So, for example, I'll give you quick examples of, let's say, if you would put any meat in a pot and cover it with oil would preserve it. If you cover meat in spices, it would do exactly the same thing, and it would cook it as well. Salt cooks. If you put your own hand in salt for 2 days, then you won't have a hand anymore. So it cooks. Salt is one of the oldest ways of cooking. And then acidity, vinegar and lemon or lime does exactly the same thing. But the most aggressive one is definitely salt. And you can see it being used so much even today. So salt is great to use when you actually can't consume a big quantity of meat straight away. So if you have a whole calf being slaughtered, the amount of meat that you have is insane. And back in the days, they wouldn't have a freezer, so they would preserve it with these ways. And then last, we have a pancake dish. This was from a coffee shop that I worked in London. And we were calling this one actually Berlin pancakes, because we had a menu based on different flavors and different things that we tasted all over the world in our travels. And it was a very successful menu. So that's why I put this one on, because it was a dish that the owners ate in Berlin in a coffee shop, and they loved it, so we put it on the menu. We changed it a little bit, made it a bit better, I would say. So we add lime and lemon cream, then bananas, a walnut crumble, and berries compote. And that was a bestseller at the coffee shop, 100%. And then I would like to get into the fine dining aspect. So you saw all these photos of dishes from comfort food. So it is a very nice way, I would say, but on the same time, it's not as demanding. It's a bit more relaxed. I'm sure for you, these dishes looked very good, but trust me, they are very relaxed. They are very cool. They are easygoing. They are not too difficult to make. And And I've done 2 years, my 2 first years in London. I was working with a Michelin chef, and the expectations there are very different. So, yeah, I'll share some photos with you of these dishes. So you can see that they look more refined, and they look more detailed. And precision is very important here, as you can see, like where everything stands, why, and that every single dish that goes out has to always look exactly the same. I won't describe what they are. I don't think it's really necessary. I just want you to see how different they look. And then we can see also the dessert, which is the next photo. So you can see that it's a very different approach. It's more artistic, and there's not much of space to do, let's say, mistakes. So the time that I spent there, almost 2 years, was a very difficult time, because I would work 16 hours a day sometimes, 14, 12 minimum. And I would always come back home late. I would leave very early. But at that time, I didn't have a child. It was, my first 2 years being here in London on a new adventure. Definitely a very good beginning and time for me to get to know my wife's family and get to know where she comes from. That was the main reason that I did that move. And on the same time, because I was here, I wanted to make the most out of it and work at a very good establishment. And it worked out very well. It was a very good experience. But it really turned to an addiction. So in that industry, if you follow the Michelin industry, you are shaped, molded, and trained to sacrifice everything and to really put everything on the side, and that you are not the priority. The job is the priority, and that your priority is the career, and like really do everything that your chef wants. So it was fun, and I was good at it. And because I was good at it, it was very difficult to let it go. And I became the favorite chef in the team that my chef had. And from being the first Greek chef in that restaurant, I ended up 2 years later being out of 10 chefs, being half of the team were Greeks, 5 Greeks that I brought to the kitchen, that I brought from Greece in our kitchen, because my chef was very happy with us and we worked very hard. But then, that didn't work out very well with my Italian sous chef, because he felt that I'm taking over the kitchen, and I was facing, let's say, a small war against me. And the fear that I was growing because of the power that I had wasn't making it very easy. And I didn't like playing politics. I was more focused on doing my job and, just making our chef happy. And then I had an operation on my leg, because I had to do it because of the many hours that I was standing. And when I went for that operation, I was supposed to be away from work for 2 months. For 2 weeks, and then I ended up being So I was supposed to. The doctors told me at the beginning that I will be away for 2 weeks, and then when I did the operation, they told me that I have to stay for 2 months at home, and I said that's not happening. So I signed a paper that I take full responsibility to go back to work, and I went back to work with crutches, which was a very bad decision, but my crazy chef agreed. So he took me, and I was working at their office for the first 2 weeks, doing paperwork and helping, a program that they were doing with the maintenance, nothing related to the kitchen. And then I went down to the kitchen after this time, and my chef pushed me to go back, and I still had the crutches. So I refused at the beginning. So I did another week on his office chair that had, you could roll this chair. So it had, I don't know how it's called, wheels. Yeah, the wheels. And I was working on a chair with wheels all around the kitchen, doing small jobs like closing vacuum bags and rolling cookies. And yeah, I was quite useful. I was fast, but on a chair. And then after that, I went back to the doctor, and they said that I'm not ready. And I won't forget that day. I go in the kitchen, and my chef was, he thought that I will leave the crutches now. And I go in, and I told him the doctor said I'm not ready. And he said, no, you're not coming in if you don't leave the crutches. And I left the crutches on the side, and I started stepping on my leg whilst being in, a lot of pain. And I was almost crying, but I did it. And I found that power, and that's why I'm saying, like, fine dining turns to an addiction. And I don't know if you watched the movie Whiplash. It's about a drummer that really get into his career and his job, and you end up doing crazy stuff and really not thinking logically at all. So you just do all these, let's say, mistakes, and you don't treat your body very well. And anyway, at the end, I worked, and I kept going this way, and it took me eventually. I quit. A bit after that, I quit. I became the best employer that year, but soon after, I quit because it was too much, and I wanted to start a family life as well. So I felt that it's not worth it, and this is a choice that you have to make. And now that I see myself 2 years later, I'm very happy with the decisions that I made. I have a great son. I feel very blessed, and I tell you something, that as soon as my wife saw that I would leave anything for them, for my family, she's the one pushing me now to do more into my career and really not give up on anything. So it's very important, I think, to your wife or your spouse or your other half to see that they come first, and when they see that, they will do anything for you as well. And that's what happened for me with us. And I'm very happy now. And then last but not least, I'll show you a short video of where I am now. So now I find myself 10 years, or almost 10 years, a bit more than 10 years later into that job. I find myself in France, working for a leading company, #1 in the world, Viking River Cruises, and I'm an executive chef there now. And I'll just show you the video, so please tell Nikki.
All right. So where are you in the video?
I'm the one at the very front that you can see his back.
Oh, okay.
So could you hear that? Could everybody hear the video?
I couldn't hear, but
No, because for me it's so loud, but I don't know how to make it work for you to hear.
Anyway, I guess though, Nikki, you can maybe share it after, or
Yeah, I can. Yeah, share it in the
just
Facebook.
post it somewhere. So basically,
He's just shouting like the dishes. He's like very loud and saying all the dishes.
yeah. So basically, this is a massive mass production situation. You have 190 people every day for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, plus 50 people that is your crew. So all the people that work on board eat 1 hour before every meal of the customers. So you have quite a few people to feed for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And it's a very different operation. So if you ask me, am I happy there? I am happy because I'm learning how to be a manager. It's a next step. So being an executive chef, you don't work as much physically. You work mainly mentally. So you have a lot of responsibility. Only the orders that we are placing per week is 20,000 euros. So if something goes wrong there, it's a big problem. You could easily lose your job because of these mistakes. For me, it's very important because that's the last step that I can call myself a complete chef that can do anything regarding my job, and I can take any task or any responsibility, and that's why I think it's necessary for me. And I'm very happy to do it. But in terms of food, when you have mass production, you lose a lot of quality and you lose a lot of finesse. So, if you go to an all-inclusive restaurant or an all-inclusive hotel, you will see that dishes are a bit more simple. You just see a puree there, a meat, and a sauce. And it makes sense because, you have to feed so many people. So it's the only way to keep the standards at least decent. To keep high standards, it's only possible with a lower volume of people. So yeah, that's it from me. I think now I can answer to any questions that you might have.
I have some questions.
Who's that?
Joachim. Hey,
hello, Joachim. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good.
Great. First of all, I want to give feedbacks. Nice photos. I really like them.
Thank you.
Maybe you have a friend, or did you take them by yourself, or some of them?
They are a collection of photos that whenever something goes on or something happens, I always put them on a USB stick and I keep them on my file. Yeah. So some of them are from different photo shoots, and some of them are from pop-up events, like random events that I've done in various places, and then some are from my own phone, like the food. Cool. But most of them are professional. You are right. Like most of them are from a photo shoot.
Yeah, they look really nice. Okay, that was more feedback than a question, but thanks for answering. And then another question. In the relatively at the start, you talked about the cooking industry or the business, and I was thinking about I was wondering if you could change one thing about the cooking industry that you experienced, like the part of the industry that you got to know over the years. what would you change? Just one thing.
Oh.
You said, like, you mentioned, I remember now you said it's kind of addicting and stuff like that. And I'm not talking about this addictive part, but the question popped in my head when you talked about the...
Well, I understand your question very well, and it's a very good question. It's basically something that goes around every chef's brain. And I would say that for me, the best thing that I would change is make it a bit more of a friendly environment. Why so tough? Why so rude many times? Why so aggressive? I think this has to start being in the past, and that it's not necessary anymore. I don't run my kitchens this way. Like, I'm very calm, I'm very quiet, and I do raise my voice only when it's really needed, because it's wasted energy for me. I think a lot. I think most of the time I'm constantly thinking, even if I'm not in the kitchen. So, raising my voice unnecessarily just to create a fear factor in the kitchen to keep them more disciplined, I think is very unnecessary. It's the respect that will make them follow and listen to you. Even if you have a more aggressive way, at some point that will have an expiry date, for sure. But if you gain the respect, that's something that stays with you.
Wow, nice answer. I think, I have a friend who worked in the kitchen for 3 years when he started, and he hated the environment. Like, when he talked about it, it reminded me of military almost, like strictness and it's interesting that you say that.
I mean, the structure and the military-based environment is very important. Don't get me wrong. There has to be, a very good understanding of positions and why some people have the responsibilities that they have. But I do believe that there is always a nicer way of dealing with any situation.
There's like a middle ground. Doesn't have to be super strict, but it's good to have some.
It's definitely discipline, not necessarily, over strict or anything, but it is discipline. Discipline is there. It is important. But I think that discipline doesn't have to be, forced or in a bad way. I think you can very respectfully ask people to do some tasks, and if you show that you respect what they are doing for you, they will be more than happy to do so. Yeah,
true. Probably also true for every life scenario, not only for cooks.
Yeah. I think that everything that we said today could easily be transformed to many other jobs as well.
Thank you. Nice answer. Thanks. I have more questions. If not anyone else has a question right now, I have a small list. I wrote down all the questions.
Yeah, I don't mind. I'm more than happy to answer all of them.
Also ich hätte sonst auch noch eine Frage.
Hello.
Hi, Annika. Hast du eine Frage?
I would have a question too. Yeah.
Yes, please. We can come back. We can go back to Joachim after.
I don't know. Maybe I missed it. Okay. Maybe I missed it, but you said you started in a kitchen in Greece, and then you said something about college. But did you go to a college to learn cooking, and where?
Yes. So basically, at the age of 16, I started in Corfu as a waiter. The year after, at the age of 17, I was, an assistant chef at that kitchen. And then at the age of 18, I saved all my money to go at the most prestigious college in Athens.
Okay.
So I studied 2 years there, and it was very good because there I got very good contacts to my first apprenticeship. And then at that time as well, I joined the Greek MasterChef, a TV show. I'm sure you know it. And I was very lucky that I went to that show at a very young age. I was only 18, and I ended up out of 5,000 participants, 10th.
Oh, wow.
So that was, I would say that was maybe one of the most important things in my career, because it opened so many opportunities. And I went and worked with great chefs, and it opened many doors that wouldn't open otherwise.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay.
I would have a question also.
No, I don't answer any questions to John. I think you had enough time. You had enough time with me.
I will ask it anyways.
Yeah. Okay.
So taste is probably like a subjective thing, right? Like the things that I think taste good might be different from the things that you think.
Definitely.
The things that you think taste good. But when we go into this like fine dining world where things like the dishes are more sophisticated, does the measure for like quality and for what dish is a good dish, does it become more objective? Like if you have an excellent chef making an excellent dish, would all the excellent chefs in the world say that this is an excellent dish? Like, does it become more objective the more you get into the, let's say, higher levels of cooking?
So very good question. Going into that, the more towards the fine dining direction you go, the more you find a philosophy behind the dish. It stops being just something that you go to eat. It becomes more like an experience, and it becomes more of a story that this chef is trying to express. So what the dish is for a chef is a way of expressing his feelings. It's very much like an artist painting. So what you are trying to do is express your feelings. So I'll give you a simple example. Let's say I grew up in a farm and my grandmother had rabbits. So I would make a dish with rabbit because I grew up with rabbits, and I would think a bit more sophisticated, and I would create a dish like that. For example, what I would think like this outside the box, like what does the rabbit eat? He eats carrots. So let's make a carrot puree, then use the rabbit, and of course you will have to have protein on the dish. You will have to have vegetable. You will have to have a starch, which is like potato, rice, bread, anything that gives you gluten. Then a great sauce. So then if I do it this way, I'm presenting you a story, and I'm showing you where I come from, and I can present it this way as well. So the waiter comes in front of you and he puts it on your table, and he's like, this comes from our chef background and how he grew up. And, of course they can say it much nicer than I do right now. But I guess you understand what I'm saying. Like, it's more of a story.
Okay.
And also you will very often find in a fine dining experience the option of a degustation menu. So you have many courses like first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and goes on. And it has to have climaxes. So nothing that they put on these dishes is just for the sake of putting it. Everything has to have a reason. So let's say you start very mild, then you have some explosions on the next dish, then you go mild again, then some explosions on the next dish, and then maybe the dessert, which has to be very strong because dessert is what they eat last. So if the dessert is very good, it's their last impression. So, everything matters on fine dining. The way the waiter serves you, the way the waiter talks to you, the timing that they put the plate in front of you, like everything makes it more of an experience.
So it's more like a theater almost.
Yes, that's the word. You just took it from my mouth. It's more theatrical. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, if not anyone else has questions, I can ask one. So wait. So as a more simple one, in how many different kitchen environments have you been so far? I bet you've been going through some different kitchens, some different restaurants and stuff. So, like, can you give a number on that?
How many different establishments?
Yeah.
Okay. 1, 2, 3, 6. Maybe in total 20. Maybe 20.
20. Okay. And whether I bet not.
But main jobs, I would say less. Like I've been in maybe 12, like for a while, stayed there. But different kitchens, like to go for a 2 days event as well. We are talking about much more than even 20.
Yeah.
But the style was always usually around French techniques and French cooking. That's what it usually was. Like wherever I worked, I was mainly focused on taking jobs that have a French influence.
And did all like experiencing all those kitchens, were all of them like similar vibe, like similar way of being, like did most of them or all of them like treat their stuff really strictly, or did you meet some kitchens or some work colleagues who are really like inspiration for you, because you said you would prefer to have a more like, how do you say, nicer way of communicating in the kitchen?
I'll tell you what, like I've been in many places, but most of them I was very lucky to have a good leader over me. So I never had like two extreme situations. Only once was very extreme, that the head chef of the establishment was crazy. The stuff that he was doing, you don't even want to know. And apart from that place, I always had a good leader over me. And I can tell you definitely that depending on your experiences, you become usually like your leaders. So I would call myself lucky. I had people that, weren't unreasonable or, treating people in a very bad way. But even if that was the case, like I remember a few times that I met chefs or people that were like that, I would leave straight away. I wouldn't stay. I mean, it's a choice that I made as well, to stay in environments that they actually work and they don't waste time and energy for, trying to be a boss in the kitchen just for the sake of it. Yeah.
Okay. Cool that you've been so lucky.
Yeah, but you can always choose, like in case someone was interested, for example, never, like your friend, he's working 3 years. If he doesn't like it, there are so many other places that he can go. And
yeah, as you said.
Okay, I would say that definitely it's important to go through some hard time, because it will make you better. And, you see your limits. That's the important thing. Like you see your limits and you see where you can reach, which is important for you, for your own knowledge, to see how far you can go. But as I told you about the fine dining experience, my realization and my final conclusion is that it's not worth it, you know? For me, but that's me. And the chef that I was working with there, the Michelin chef, we are still friends. You know, we go for coffees. I meet him. You know, there's nothing wrong about that. But I chose to have a family.
I see. Do you teach people right now? Do you have someone who's under you that you teach?
Yeah, so the way it works now on the riverboat is pretty much that I have to be a good leader and make sure that these 10 chefs under me, plus 2 kitchen porters, plus 10 waiters, are guided through their job very well when it comes to the kitchen. Of course, there's someone else responsible for the waiters, the maître d', but whenever they are in the kitchen, I'm responsible for them as well, like what they are doing and how they come in the kitchen and what they do in the kitchen. So it's very important to keep these people happy because they are all away from home in the first place. So it's hard being there in the first place, and just make the most out of them. They are there to do a job. You have to remember that they're not there to do holidays, and you have to be strict when you have to be strict and be a good leader.
All right, sounds nice.
You want to join?
Huh?
You want to join?
Yeah, let's go. I'm not that good of a cook, but I would certainly want to learn.
Why not?
I have another. I have many questions.
Yeah.
So, like you maybe heard that, like cooking in general as a job, you don't get weekends or holidays off.
Yeah, that's true. That hasn't changed.
That hasn't changed, even for you as a leader of these 10 chefs.
Okay. With Viking, the good thing, and one of the main reasons that I joined was that basically you work from March until end of November, sometimes December. But the good thing is that pretty much December, January, and February you don't work because they send the ships for repairs and to fix them for the next season. So everyone has holidays, and especially during festive period, which is Christmas. So that was one of the pluses, I would say, to join, because I would never have Christmas off or New Year's Eve off. I would always work.
Dang.
Yeah, it's still the case most of the time. But the more you grow and the better you become in the industry, and the more money you make, then you can choose not to work on these dates. Like you have the power, I guess, to be able not to do it anymore. But at the beginning, yes, it takes quite a while of working on these dates because it's always the most busy time.
Mm-hmm. But then, for how long are you on the ship in one turn? You say the season is from March.
Yeah, it's usually 2 months, and then you have 2 to 3 weeks off. But it all. Yeah, and then again you go back for 2 months and then 2 to 3 weeks off. So you basically do that approximately 3 times. But it all depends on your team. Like if you have a team of 10 chefs and then 2 months later 2 are leaving, and then you are waiting for the new people to come in, then you might not take your holidays on time, or you might not take them at all. So it can be very stressful. So that's why it's very important to keep a very good environment, because if people are happy, they will do the job, no one will leave, and then everyone takes the holidays that they so much want.
Okay.
But if that happens, that you can't take the holidays because people left, you have to stay. That's the problem. Otherwise your other option is to quit, and you wouldn't want to do that.
No, not if you chose that job.
Exactly.
Leading to my, I think, last question, which is, like you said, like you tried or you did, you wanted to become a journalist, and then you wanted to become an architecture before that, and then cooking came around, and then I'm just wondering, compared to the other two passions, what made you choose cooking? Like when was the moment, or what was, like, how was it for you when you, like, the moment you realized, I want to do cooking because, I don't know, whatever is your answer.
Yeah, so basically it was one day that, I mean, I come from a family that grew up, quite humbly, let's put it this way. And both of my parents were working all the time, so we would cook at home. And I was the one that would, let's put it this way, would grab the pan much easier than the others and put anything in it and cook for the family. And many times it was very unsuccessful. Some others very nice, but I always had it in me, the fun and the will to experiment and put things on a pan and just make something nice out of it. And then that one day I was sitting with my dad cooking for him. I jokingly said that, I would like to become a chef. And then, he was positive about it, and that's when everything started, because I wasn't sure of what I should do, and then I said it that day, and he was positive, and I always respected my parents' opinion, so I would always ask them for advice and what they think. Most of the times I wouldn't do what they tell me, but that was one of the times that, I did, and it worked out well.
Wow, I like that story.
Yeah.
Just did it out of a feeling, a passion. It's nice.
Yeah.
Nothing was in the way.
Yeah, and the good thing is that after that day, when I started, I never looked back. That was it. I was very determined that, okay, if that's the decision, I have to go all the way.
Respect.
Thank you. If you ask me to change a light bulb, I'm not very good at that.
Oh, really?
And, it's all I do. I never did something else really professionally.
Do you think cooking, when you get to a certain age, will be too much for you at some point?
Well, growing up, definitely your physical levels are not the same. So your career naturally changes to be more, working with your brain, which, let's say, right now is the step that I'm taking. You would say I'm very young to really stop being very active. But I think I have a very clear goal and targets and idea of what I want to do, which I would say we could really go into it and tell you everything, but it would need another session for that.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
But I think, personally, I think the end game for most, let's say, expired chefs is probably to have their restaurant on, have passive income, probably. That's what I'm thinking.
Yes, definitely. I mean, that's everyone's dream. But I have a different idea about it. From my experience, I've seen how difficult it is to run a business, and I've seen it very well. And, in the route, because I was very close to the business owners, and, I don't really want to be in their shoes. So if I do something, I would do something very, very controlled, small, that doesn't have staff members, that I do by myself. Because the biggest problem that I always faced is the staff. Because, you will never have all of your staff members happy. Someone will always have a problem. It's the nature of it. You might have some moments, a week or two, sometimes a month or two, that everyone is happy. But as soon as, everyone feels that everyone is happy, someone will think, okay, it's time for this now. Maybe I need a raise, or maybe I need a promotion, or anything. And that's not very easy for a manager.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I would do something very controlled and something that, I don't need to make anyone's life harder, because unfortunately many times as a worker you feel that you are always treated unfairly. So I prefer to just have something eventually that I'm the only one that goes through anything.
Okay. Interesting alternative route.
Sorry?
Interesting alternative route.
Yeah. Or I just prefer to work for someone else until I'm very old.
Mm.
Yeah, it's just safer, I would say.
Okay, last question for me. Okay.
Yeah. The next question, you have to pay for it, okay?
Okay. Okay, then I guess I give it to Daniel.
No, I'm joking.
He doesn't have a, yeah, I know. He doesn't have a microphone.
Yeah, excuses. It's your question, come on.
I can, so there's this question. I'll let him go first. I have many questions.
What do you think about cooking celebrities like Gordon Ramsay or Alton Brown? Do you value their opinion as chefs? Yes, I do. I mean, Gordon Ramsay, for example, is one of my favorites. I don't know if you really are interested in celebrity chefs. I think I would definitely recommend you to buy Gordon Ramsay's autobiography, because I read it and it's a very good one. He started from very humble roots as well, and he inspired me to write my own book. I'm writing my own book about life in kitchens. It's not very, it's a very premature stage, but eventually one day I want to write it myself. And I think that, celebrity chefs somehow became celebrities, but they were definitely chefs at some point. So the reasons that they became celebrity chefs is sometimes luck, sometimes, most of the times, connections, and sometimes just pure talent. Some people saw their pure talent and they got a great offer and they suddenly became famous. So I do respect them, but when you are a celebrity chef, you're not actively cooking anymore, because the amounts of money that you can make as a celebrity chef, just you realize that you don't need to do much more in terms of cooking. You just become a celebrity chef, you are an image, and you make lots of money out of TV and being that chef image. So that's it. If I guess I answered the question.
They had a project and she was asking if she could.
Okay, yeah.
No problem, Dan.
Okay, my last question is really short. Do you approve the Netflix show Chef's Table?
100%. I hope one day I'll have an episode there.
Oh yeah, I would.
Okay, because you mentioned that, my inspiration is Dan Barber. So what's the episode, if you haven't watched it? The Dan Barber chef in America is Dan Barber.
Okay, maybe you can write it in chat.
See, I was telling Nick today that I'm not very good with computers, so she had to create the PowerPoint for me. So as I said, I'm not very good at computers. I'm good at cooking. So Dan Barber is one of my inspirations. There is an episode about him, and I like the fact that he wants to cook from farm to table. So basically everything that is on the plate is grown in his farm, vegetables, meat, anything. And that's what I would like to do eventually in Corfu, in Greece. So I spoiled it. Yeah, so many questions I had to mention it. So Eventually, I hope you'll be my guest one day.
Yeah, please. Maybe yours and my future will meet, and I'm shooting an episode of Chef's Table with you in it. Who knows?
Yeah, that sounds great. But let's start from you being a business partner. So I need 10,000 euros.
Okay.
I can give you my account details.
Right now.
No, I'm joking. Yeah, that would be great, my friend. I hope so.
Yeah, same.
Everything is possible. Anything is possible.
Yes.
You never know.
Okay, if someone
Let me guess, you have another question, right?
Yes, I don't know why. Sorry. I hope it's okay.
Well, I'm glad. It's good. I think people are getting bored.
I don't know.
Someone is sleeping already.
They can leave. No, I'm just kidding. So maybe it's a hard one to answer because like people of other of like jobs, like it's hard to ask for a favorite, but I want to ask you, what's your favorite food, your favorite cuisine that you like to eat, cook? What you can take the question whichever way you want, but like, what's your favorite?
It's easy to answer. So my favorite ingredient, I mean, my favorite meat to use is fish. So seafood. I love seafood, and if I had, okay, I'm not a vegetarian. I will never be a vegetarian or a vegan. No offense to these people. I learned to respect them, and I learned to respect the reason that many of those people do it. There is a very corrupt industry out there, I do agree. And yeah, we definitely have to be aware of the situation, and we definitely have to change the way we eat because, there is consumerism and mass production are ways of some people making millions and treating everything in a very bad way just for numbers. So I would say that I would never leave any kind of meat, but if I had to choose one to live with, it's seafood for sure. And yeah, I love any kind of fish with some veg and olive oil. I love olive oil. And that's pretty much it. I'm happy with very simple things. Because, I had a life with very complicated dishes, so it's very often that the happiest meal I have is from an auntie or a grandmother. Because there's so much love put into it, and there's no pretension, they don't try to impress you, they don't try to really show off. It's just happy.
Nice.
Good.
Okay, I think I'm done with questions.
No way.
Yeah.
I might have like one or two questions.
Yes, of course, please.
Like, I don't know if I did get
just one thing, Hyoman, please don't allow Joachim to part of the next one if there is one.
I'll shut him off.
Yeah, throw my microphone.
Yeah, no, I'm joking. Please, Andy.
Yeah, just because you mentioned like comfort food, what do you mean exactly with it?
So basically, comfort food is something that you can feel related with it. Like when you call a dish comfort food, is basically something that you can feel comfortable with. Like it's not scary. It's not, something that you look at it and you have no idea what's on the dish. The waiter comes, they tell you what's on there, and as soon as they're gone, you're like, what did they say? I'm sure you faced that somewhere, somehow. Or if you haven't, just go on a fine dining restaurant to experience that because it's hilarious. The amount of waiters that I met describing the dish is so wrong and so difficult to understand is, next to... Yeah, it's too much, and because I'm a chef, I always, I won't be shy to ask them again, or I bring them in a very uncomfortable situation sometimes. So yeah, comfort food is something that you can relate to, and something that you can feel comfortable with, and that it could be something in your own house, but then at the same time, a bit more refined. Something that you could have at home, but more refined. I mean, at the end of the day, a chef has to make something at the restaurant that you can't make at home. That's why you will go there.
Okay.
Mostly.
Another question. I don't know if it's like the same answer as you had given to Hyoman, but like, what's your approach when you like create a new dish?
Well, you have to be in a certain mood, definitely. And for me, the way I start is with a pen and paper. I try to get inspired by books. So how I usually do it, I'll tell you how I did my menus for Papillon, the restaurant that you saw the photos from. So I would sit on the chair in front of the computer. On the computer, I would play some music, like sometimes classical music or something that will relax me. Many times jazz music. So a type of music that I feel relaxed with. And then I will have the computer in front of me, the Word open, start writing titles of the dishes and books behind me. So behind my chair, there would be a rainbow of books all around. So it would start with the starters, then the main courses, and then the desserts. So I would have all my books or books that would be related to the season, because we would work with season, like summer, spring, winter, and autumn. So every 3 months we would change the menu. And first I would look at the books that I'm looking into starter ideas. And I will always have a book with me that shows me which ingredients are in season, because it's really difficult to remember out of your head. And now seasons, especially for example in London, because it's so diverse and so open, you can find anything at any time because there's so much demand. You can find strawberries all around the year. But in Greece, for example, where I come from, strawberries come during summertime for the 2 months. That's it. So anyway. So for example, I start with the starters. I get inspirations. I would definitely say that I never copy. I don't like copying, but I get inspiration, and then I always make what I see mine. So I might take an ingredient idea from there, and then I always like to make my own combinations. And I would say that I always like to match things that usually don't match. And yeah, that's how I created the whole menu every time during the night. It was always nighttime because it's very quiet, everyone is sleeping. So in 10 hours, let's say, I would make a whole menu.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And what's like, or like how do you say, okay, this dish is like, it's good like this? Or when do you say, okay, I need to like add more or remove these things? When do you say, okay, this is good?
So when I make that menu during the night, next day I go to the restaurant and I sit down with my boss and we discuss about the ideas, because that's only paper, only ideas. And I discuss with him about it, and then we do any changes if he doesn't agree or if we think that we should change something. And then I start going back in my kitchen and I start with dish after dish, And it's never perfect on the first go, never. Like, it's very, very rare that you do something once and that's it. Very rare. So you do the dish, you have a concept, an idea, you look at it, you're like, okay, I have to change this. And you always taste it together with others. You don't taste it by yourself. You taste it with your whole team. First of all, you want them to feel that they are involved, so they feel valuable. Second, they have different taste buds and they could be a customer. And the third, everyone has different imagination. So the way you look at the dish, someone else sees it very differently. And then that whole discussion helps you make the final dish. But this is, I would say, an ideal approach, a good approach of a chef. Many times it's not the case, because most of the chefs are very stubborn. They are very proud. They think they know everything. and they just come, they do the dish, they show you how to do it, and they're like, that's it. But I don't, I'm a second gen, I don't do things this way. It's more about, sharing and, respecting them. And trust me, the result is much better.
So like when you're creating a plate, like when you're cooking it, then you have too much what you have in your head, or like kind of like your idea matches what you do. It's like kind of, you have like, do you know in your head like how it's supposed to taste like, and then you try to achieve that? Or like you are just...
Very, 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 very good question. So I'll tell you something. The more experienced I become and the more I know about my job, the more I feel like a small magician. Why? Because I can imagine the dish and I can know before I do it exactly how it tastes. But that comes with experience. And many times I go to a restaurant, I eat something, and I know exactly what the chef did to make it this way.
Oh, that's impressive.
So it's very, yes, it's very cool. It's very cool, and it's very nice to feel that you have that ability. Very nice.
Yeah, because like I never know what my food is. Like sometimes I feel like doing something good, but then it's awful, or like it's not really what I imagine it to be, and then it's like so many hours for an average food,
Yeah, I mean, I understand what you say, and this comes down to the discussion that we had with Yoman in Greece as well, and we have some plans of doing a few more things together. And I think from what I saw today and the response and how interested you are about it, I'm very, very happy to share more. And I think there's a lot into it that we could share together. And I think we can do something nice together. Definitely.
Yeah.
Mm.
It's like a superpower, what you described just now. It's like a...
Yes, definitely. I mean, it feels that way, and it feels very good. Sometimes what I enjoy the most is blind tasting, like putting a dish in front of you, close your eyes, taste it, and find what's in there. I think that's very cool.
You should collaborate with the German TV, with Wetten, Das, I guess.
Do you have an offer?
Yeah, I know a guy.
Good. Good.
Kidding. Sorry. I have a question. And how at home? How is it like with cooking at home? Do you cook the whole time? Do you take turns with your wife, or does she cook? Does she get annoyed by you cooking everything? You give her
So basically, how it usually works is my wife cooks at home. Yes, I cook as well. I usually cook when we have guests, and she usually cooks on a daily basis. And she's a good cook, so I'm very happy. And she listens, so whenever she has questions, I show her. But the problem is that if I'm asked to do something or help, I usually take over most of the time. Like I'm asked to help a little bit, but I naturally take over, which is it's very difficult for me not to, because people do things different ways, and I just prefer to do them my way if I'm asked to prepare a dish, because I feel that this is the best way. But I'm being always very polite. I never make someone feel uncomfortable. And many times I like to involve people. Like I remember once we traveled with my wife in Spain, Denmark, and Sweden, and we stayed with different families. And of course, we stayed for free because they were friends. But our paying back was that we would always buy a good dinner meal, and me and my wife would cook together for them. And that was one of the nicest holidays that we had. And people were so impressed and very happy to have a very nice meal.
Mm.
Yeah.
All right. I think like personally with photography, my passion, I can relate to what you were saying with taking over. I do that.
Yeah, I know. I bet. I can imagine. Because
kind of part of passion, I guess.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. All right. That was my question. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I do have a question.
Oh, thank God.
You said that you've made decisions to like put your family first.
Yes.
At different points.
I knew you will go deep.
So I don't know. Can you just share what was your experience like? You know, being in a relationship, but then also having a child to look after, and then being in a job that is very demanding because you're spending so much time away from your family. So how do you manage to like make everybody happy, like you and your career, both making sure that your wife and your boys are, you know, that they are also happy?
Well, so, you know, tough one. It's love that wins at the end of the day. So,
okay, what does that mean?
So wait. I will go into details, but I'm just saying that it's not easy, and many times me as a husband, I always feel that, oh, you know, I do so much, but it's not really appreciated sometimes. But at the end of the day, what's very important is the dynamic between you and your wife, and communication. Why you are doing what you do, why you are going through these sacrifices, and always what's very important is to make sure that you express your love and you show that you really admire your other half, and that you are in this together, you know. So you don't do it by yourself, and you need their support. So just a simple example, like, because for example, for me, doing this job with Viking and being on a riverboat is the hardest decision that I've taken ever so far. And I'm like, why is it getting harder when I'm trying it to become easier? But it's the sacrifices that we have to go through because of our goals. So we want to have a house eventually in Corfu, and the only way to save money fast is this way. And we both know it, we both see it. And I never took that decision very, you know, like aggressively. I said that, okay, I'm going to try for 2.5 months, because it was the end of the season last year that I was asked to take this position. And I said, you know, we'll try it and we'll see how it goes. And we both agree, because as soon as I came back, you know, I showed her how much we saved. I took her to the first ATM. I put the bank card inside and I showed her how much we saved, not I saved. And, you know, you have to make sure that you make it clear and that you communicate with your other half. And if you do that and you are together, you know, focused on the targets, definitely being united with God as well, and pray. And, you know, I'm a person that always felt guided. So I always felt very strongly that what I'm doing is good for the family, not for me. And I was always a very family-oriented person as well. I think that family is the nicest thing that you can have. And then I also feel that what's the point of leading a life without leaving something behind? Like we all, you know, we pass away at some point. There is life after death. We all believe in that. But there is a legacy that we leave behind for those that stay here. And I think that legacy is very important. especially for your children. Yeah, communication, love, understanding, and patience and commitment.
That's some really good advice there.
Thank you. It was a very hard question. So.
Well, thank you for answering. I see there are more questions in the comment section.
I'm sorry I missed the main part in the beginning, so maybe you already talked about this, but here it goes. Is there something you really don't like to cook with? How is your relationship with other chefs? Some kind of community, or is it more of everyone on his hill? So, Sebastian Zimmerman, how are you? Where is he? Can I see him? No.
A camera and no mic.
Oh, it's okay. Well, no problem. It's nice to have you here. Sebastian, is it you that we were on a team together once in Camberg? Yes. How are you? Very nice to hear from you. So basically, to answer your question, there's nothing I don't like to cook, really. I love everything, and I'm very adventurous as well. So things that I haven't tried, I always like to try. And I when I find things that I haven't tried, I go for it. And even if sometimes they are disgusting, I just have to try them. So, for example, when we went once to Hong Kong, they were having these skewers with pig's offal grilled. And, people were queuing up for it. So I was like, I have to try it. It was disgusting. I didn't like it, but I tried it. So there's nothing that puts me off, really, unless I try it sometimes. So, yeah, that was a bad experience, and I wouldn't try to cook it, pig's offal. But in general, no, not much. And then my relationship with other chefs. Oh, the time that you spend with other chefs is a lot of time, and they become like a family. So many chefs that I worked 10 years ago, I still communicate with. I think it's very important to remember where you started from. Many times that I am at the place where I started, I go and meet the people that I work with. And I always keep ties with everyone that I worked with in the past. Of course, it's impossible to like everyone or everyone to like you. I think that if everyone likes you, there's something wrong with you. But it's definitely a community that has a lot of competition. So it's difficult to really keep very strong bonds, because everyone, tries to be the best. It's fun, it's impressive, but I don't like being in the situation of bad competition. I like good competition. So, for example, there were times that I would go in my kitchen having everything ready from the night before, tip top, perfect, and I go in my section the day after and I find half of the stuff missing. So for me, that's bad competition. It's a tough place, but you learn how to survive, and you can make very good friends out of it, definitely. You're welcome.
Do you hate microwaves?
I used to be a chef that really doesn't like them, but if you look into microwaves, they can be very beneficial, actually, and they are not as bad as we thought they are. Of course, not all of them. You have to really know which kind of microwave, because there are many different settings and many different types of microwaves, but they can be very beneficial in a kitchen, depending on how you serve your menu. So no, I don't hate them, but I'm not the biggest supporter. But I definitely don't hate them.
Interesting. Yeah.
I wouldn't use them to cook. I would use them to just reheat something, or just to, what is it called, experiment. Like there are quite a few things that you can do on a microwave. Like you can create out of a mix of eggs, you can create a sponge in the microwave. So microwaves are quite fun in some extent.
Interesting.
When it comes to molecular cuisine, there are quite a few cool things that you can do with the microwave.
So it's like kind of the fun tool out of a tool case of a cook, I guess.
Yeah, if you use it correct, there are some fun parts, definitely.
Nice. I saw on the internet you can cook like a small cupcake, cupcake with it. You try that?
No, I haven't. But for example, you can do potatoes as well. You can do a potato. You can actually cook a potato in the microwave.
Really?
And there are ways to use it, but it's not my first choice. No.
Okay. Thanks.
My favorite way of cooking is slow cooking. So I like a clay pot, for example, putting things in there and just let it cook for 12, 16 hours, and then everything is falling apart. And there's so much flavor in there because it's being cooked in low temperature for a very long time. And all the good nutrients have stayed in there because you haven't used high temperatures.
Nice.
Okay, I think we've already asked you, Alex, so many questions. I hope we didn't tire you out too much.
No, trust me.
2 hours.
I do enjoy it a lot, and maybe that's why I need a community and some people to listen to me, because I'm becoming a bit too boring for my wife because I always talk about job.
Oh, okay. So yes, you may always share your stuff because we don't know all of your stories. Yeah,
there's so much that we could talk about, definitely.
Yes. So if people, even after this talk, just because it's getting late and I think we should come to an end, but
I think
if
it's
there are more
11
questions,
Yeah.
are people allowed to send you a message or?
Yes, of course. I will write my Facebook name.
Follow the man on Instagram.
Right.
Yeah, I think Theoniki also put some links there of my Instagram and my Facebook. So please, I think most of you have me. If you don't have me, just add me and feel free to ask me anything.
All right. Thanks, man.
I hope you won't start asking all tomorrow for recipes.
Secret recipes.
No, I don't mind sharing, of course, but sometimes it takes me a while to find the good recipes because I want to share good stuff.
I get that.
And once we are able to cook.
Well, I'm sure you all cook very well. You just don't believe in yourself that much. Or you just need the right guidance.
Yeah.
And I'm here for you.
Thank you.
No problem.
That's a very nice note to end with. That was very beautiful what you said. And yeah. Well, I'm sad to say that, it's time to say goodbye and everybody still has to do their stuff. But yes, I think it is time. So Alex, if you have one last word, you may share it. Otherwise, we can say our goodbyes.
No, it's been a pleasure. It's been fun, and I think I really enjoyed myself. And anyone can be a chef, anyone can be a cook, as long as they have that passion in them. And I'm here for anyone, for anything. And thank you for giving me that time.
Oh, thank you. for giving us this wonderful evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, then take care, everyone, and meet each other on the next show. So stay tuned and have a lovely evening. Bye, everyone.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye.